Chapter 3 Episode 9, Night Chat at Sacred Mountain. I thought I had already grasped the current situation in Crest Kingdom, but to think you, who should be the Beast King's successor, were listlessly hiding deep in the mountains like this. Don't you have anything to do? Ravan clenched his lips upon hearing my words. I know that. But, the T.I.Tle of Beast King is too much for me. That's why I am here to reevaluate myself. Can you say that a bit more clearly? What I mean, Asmina started off in place of her brother. Because the responsibilities and duties of being a Beast King are too tiresome, I prefer to stay here where I can play as I like without having to work, is what my brother said. Isn't that just like a NEET desperately saying I don't want to work? I absolutely don't want to work? That can't be true, right? I gave him a questioning gaze. Oh, of course that can't be true. It's for training. So he replied, but I didn't miss that his eyes were swimming for a moment. Hey. Come to think of it, he has been receiving the meals that Asmina regularly brings, and it feels like he has gotten used to an environment where he just eats, sleeps, and plays. Is this man seriously a useless member of society? Princess, should I eliminate him so that not even his soul is left behind? Atsuho was asking, not with questioning tone but rather a confirming one. I don't think that will be an issue. By the way, if the body is completely annihilated, even resurrection can't bring him back. However, a fragment of a second before I say all right, Asmina's elbow precisely struck Ravan's side around the liver faster than the speed of sound. Dash. Of course brother seriously thought about becoming the Beast King. In the near future he will become a Beast King that is respected, not only in the Crest Kingdom but also enough to stand before every beastman, and someone who is useful to your highness. After that he promised that he will marry me and provide me with rose-colored future. That's what he's always declared. Asmina A.S. it in a single breath and glanced back at Ravan, who was fainting in agony. I didn't say anything about wife, and then she grabbed Ravan by his neck, while he was groaning and rejecting her statement, and forcibly raised him up. Isn't that right? Ravan Nii-sama. She grabbed his head with all her might and made him nod like a ventriloquist's puppet. As you can see, I hope you understand, Hyuki-sama. As if accomplished H.I plus NG an achievement, Asmina faced me with a big innocent smile, so there is nothing I can do but nod. This little sister is scary, really scary. Even Atsuho also becomes speechless. Rather, because you shocked his half-A.S. said head so much, the drugs have started to drain from his head. His soul is starting to leave his body though. Perhaps it's not a problem. Well, that's fine, I am not going to retort. Alright, then is it fine if I A.S. assume that from now on Crest Kingdom will become independent from the Federation and become the Virginia S.Sal of my country? I had a lot on my mind before coming here, but unexpectedly, it's been easily resolved. Though I also feel that the leader, Ravan, is out the loop in this discussion. Well, it should be fine considering their might. Well, it's not for me to answer, if my brother agrees to that though, Asmina answered while casually resting the fainted Ravan on her lap. I am not really envious about it, I wonder why, but she was being a bit evasive. This is embarrassing to say, but actually, because of Big Brother's R.E.T.A.R.N, many other tribes have raised concerns due to unease. She hit her brother's head very hard at the R.E.T.A.R.D part. Gywook looking at Ravan, who raised a voice like a frog being crushed just now, looks like it. I understood. However, in front of Granduncle, who is the current Beast King, of course they won't publicly raise an objection. Granduncle. Yes. He is the elder brother of my grandfather. Ho, so that's their relations. H.I plus P. Because of that relations. H.I plus P. When my brother, who is also my milk sibling, was little, his talent was discovered by Granduncle and then was trained, so before we realized it, brother was called the Beast King's successor, but since some of them have biased tendencies, brother felt it was too troublesome and tried to run away by secluding himself here. What a disappointing man. As Beastkin, if he didn't show any will to fight, he will only be made fun of. Atsuho spat out those words in an annoyed voice. What stirred it even more is Granduncle's declaration the other day about our withdrawal from the Crescent Luna Federation to become a Virginia's Sal of Imperial Crimson. The clan leaders gathered and rushed to hold a meeting after that. Unfortunately, the end result was, let's leave it to the judgment of the next generation's Beast King. In other words, they left it to this thing. I pointed at Ravan, who was still unconscious in Asmina's lap. He seemed to be having a bad dream and muttered something like, "Stop, Asmina, my pants, no, not this thing, but the Beast King successor. There are other candidates as well." Somehow in my head, there appeared a lineup of househead, next generation, legitimate, and reformist successors, those types of Beast Kings. There have been none up until now. Currently, not only do they doubt whether brother has the qualifications or not, but they also believe that there's someone from their own tribe who has better rights to hold the strongest T.I.Tle of Beast King, and so, they decided to fight it out and decide once for all. Of course the current Beast King, my granduncle, also approved it. I didn't hear anything about this. That dam.net old man, he must have kept silent because he thought it would be more interesting this way. Then the reason he hides deep inside the mountains like this is because he lacks confidence and wants to abandon his responsibility, huh? It seems we only wasted our time, princess. Yeah, you're right. No. Of course not. For my brother, there's no need to test it out. Even against granduncle it's clear as day he will emerge victorious. That's why he holds no interest towards it. However, he's actually pretty pumped up. Isn't that right, Ravan and Isama? Yeah, I'll beat the other candidates into a pulp. Asmina mimicked Ravan's voice using a falsetto and took his hand to force him to make a triumphant pose while supporting his corpse-like body. I wonder how I should react in this situation. See, his hidden fighting spirit caused his body to tremble in excitement. No, that's a spasm of deadly agony because of the movements you forced him to make. Well, that's fine, I guess. In other words, he has the confidence to win in the Beast King selection match, right? I decided to ask Asmina while healing Ravan. Or rather, isn't he completely a puppet? Though, I also feel as long as she is there for him, it doesn't matter even if the person himself is completely garbage. Yes, of course. Is what I would like to say, but, unexpectedly Asmina showed some hesitation. This is my intuition as Shrine Maiden, but it seems the divine protection of the divine beast, the beast tribe's guardian deity, is drifting away from my brother. Well, I guess it is natural looking at this simpleton. Utsuho gave her opinion in an extremely disinterested manner. And I also feel that, other than that, there is some kind of malice that will sweep this world in its vortex, malice in the world, huh? Now that I remember it, I think Lubbock said something about this is the order of G.O.D. If there's an enemy who is pretending to be G.O.D, then perhaps this is a perfect chance? Since, if someone under them becomes the Beast King, then they can take half of Crescent Luna Federation legally. Well, this also applies for me. Say, Asmina. Recently, did you hear anything about an unfamiliar and strong warrior suddenly appearing in one of the other tribes, specifically the Wolfman, Catman, or Rabbitman tribes? By the way, the three tribes I mentioned are character races that could be selected by players in Eternal Horizon Online. About the Wolfman and Catman tribes, we don't interact with them much, so I don't know. As for the Rabbitman tribe, they didn't even send anyone as their representative. But lately I've heard something about strong arms circulating amongst the other tribes. Hearing what Asmina said while T.I.ling her head, I folded my arms and thought. I see, so instead of directly sending a player, they are going to give them a powerful item and indirectly control them that way. When I think about it, Beast King is the Beast Tribe's representative. No matter how they have a habit to abide by a strong person, abiding by someone with a doubtful origin would also cause opposition. If that's the case, I need to personally confirm what item they're using. Actually, I want to watch the Beast King selection match. Is that possible? That's a bit complicated. Generally only the members of Predict.I.P.8ing tribes can come to watch, but since Hyuki-sama might become the sovereign suzerain state that we're a part of, if I consult with Jesus, perhaps he can bring it up at the Patriarch's meeting. I see, then may I leave it to you? Yes, please leave it to me. Well, if that's impossible, I can just ask Atsuho to appear and use the divine beast's influence to come and watch it. I understand, princess. However, if those fools don't even grant your wish, please look forward to the time I get to strangle those simpleton clan leader heads to death. If possible, I would like this end in a peaceful way. CH3EP9 End. Episode 10, Day Prior Preliminary. Well then, a lot of things happened, and 2 weeks after that, the communication familiar which I left behind for Asmina returned with a letter. It said that the clan council's decision was that my observation of the matches was permitted and also listed the details of the tournament. Ho! Considering those slow-working clan leaders, that's exceptionally quick. The one who spoke was the Beast King, who now officially possessed the T.I.Tle of Imperial Crimson Martial Instructor. That's how it shall be. Princess's words are heaven's will, something that should be prioritized above all else. If she is being kept waiting meaninglessly, I will personally march there and burn them, along with their country, to ashes. Nevertheless, what kind of joke is it for some who is of the beast race to not make haste and quickly come to a decision for the betterment of their entire race? You're the Beast King. You are also responsible for the degradation of these affairs, isn't that so? Atsuho, who always stood next to me, was hiding her mouth with her favorite folding fan and had turned her cold gaze towards the Beast King. Honestly, it's the peak of shamefulness, divine beast Atsuho-sama. The Beast King bowed his head very deeply. Well, in regards to the group, it can't be helped if someone is blabbering about this and that. Apart from that, about this Beast King selection match issue, according to Asmina's letter, forgive me for being informal. How are you, Hyuki-sama? Brother, who returned to village for the Beast King succession, is together with me and he's screaming with joy every day. Let's skip the preface. So, if I roughly summarized the contents, the match will be held in about 20 to 24 days from today, located at the Cress Kingdom's holy ground, the Sacred Beast Hill. The ones who are predict.I.P.8ing are the 16 warriors who were elected from various tribes. Before this, the preliminaries are held, which divides the group into 2 with 8 people in each. It will be held simultaneously 20 days from today and lasts for 3 days. The locations are the Demon Wolf Feeding Grounds and the place where the Earth Dragon slumbers, located west and east of the Sacred Beast Hill respectively. The final match between the 2 winners who advanced from both groups will be held at the Sacred Beast Hill. The winner become the Beast King. For these fights, there are no restrictions on weapons or equipment. However, arrows and magic that do not directly utilize one's physical strength are prohibited. Also, in the case where there is an inappropriate fight or misconduct unbefitting of the Beast King, the predict.I.P.N will be disqualified on the spot. The outcome will be decided in situations where the opponent has been judged as unable to fight or have recognized their own defeat. After the decision is made, any kind of protest will not be accepted. Also, regardless of it being a fight for life and death and regardless of the outcome, grudges should not be held. The main point is kinda like that. It seems they really are going to kill each other. My impression made the Beast King shrug his shoulders. Well, if they aren't at least like that, they aren't going to consent to one another. Toward his frank manner, Tenge, who sat beside him, made a face that said he wanted to say something, but the Beast King held the T.I.Tle of being my martial art instructor, so Tenge seems to have reluctantly swallowed his complaint. Hearing the Beast King's words, Atsuho nodded with an obvious face. If there is something like a serious injury midway, then, is it cured with healing magic? Yes, it is. Well, to a certain level, with the Shrine Maiden's skill in the case of the New Gruv tribe, Asmina is quite a prodigy. With that ability, wounds can be cured, but nothing can be done if they lose a limb and such. In that situation, whether they stop or not is up to them, but usually they continue to fight and die. What an unproductive race they are. No one seems to realize that those who run away may fight for another day. By the way, the Beast King himself didn't go through this kind of tournament. It seems that his strength and pure soul had been recognized to the point that he was crowned as the Beast King. In that case, isn't this tournament useless? With this, simply by winning, even a thug can become the Beast King, I asked, and actually, this tournament in the end is to select the candidate for the next Beast King, so not the official Beast King. Currently, the Beast King and those clan leaders will confirm their strength and soul. If there are no problems, then the candidate will officially become the Beast King, or so he said. Even so, he entrusted the current Cress Kingdom's problem to the next generation, therefore, the relation becomes Beast King T.I.Tle fate of the country. What an irresponsible person. Also, the predict.I.P.Ants names are attached. I wonder, how is it from your point of view, Master? Can Ravan win? I presented the predict.I.P.Ant names to the Beast King. This world human beast is different from Eternal Horizon Online, which had 3 standard race. The variety is many. What kind of ability they have? That is really unpredictable, isn't it? Victory or defeat is like a jar of water. I really can't possibly say it before I open the lid. Or so said the Beast King as he partially closed his eyes while gazing at the list of registrants that he received from me through Mikoto. Famo, the first one, Akiran, is the Tigerman tribe leader. If I remember correctly, he did not lose any disputes between tribes, so he received the nickname Strong Arm. This is difficult. My stupid pupil's chances of winning probably dropped to 40%. Next is David the Pantherman tribe hero. He's a spear master. It was said that he has slain an earth dragon with a single spear of his. This one, if dealt carelessly, will make him lose too. Eugene the huge rock of the Bearman tribe. His huge body, which is 3 meters in height and 700 kilograms in weight, is a weapon just in and of itself. Fighting him head-on is reckless, but oh dear, can that moron even use any alternative methods? And then Cyril the mercenary from the Snackyman tribe. Even normally those tribes are scary because of their tough sh.e.l.l's flexible movements and poisonous fangs. Furthermore, with his actual experience as a mercenary, well, I wonder how it will be. It feels like the Beast King enjoyed speaking about all of these anxiety-inducing matters. Doesn't that mean that Ravan is really in a tough spot? Practically, he has poor prospects. Be that as it may, is it even possible to only fight battles where you know you can win? Is that so? I certainly don't want to predict.I.P.8 in any matches other than ones where I know I can win though. Rather, I can't think anyone who gambles with their life as being anything but a fool, you see. I tilted my head in puzzlement. Probably guessing the gist of it from my face, he made a face which says, good grief, this is why women are, after all, they can't understand a man's romance and PF, as he lightly laughed scornfully. Then, he cast his eyes onto the list once again. Somehow it's really annoying. Then, the notable opponent will be. The Beast King exposed a rare face of surprise. What's the matter? Rabbitman tribe, huh? Adventurer Chloe. I don't recall the name, but a woman is it? Is that unusual? Normally, the Rabbitman tribe itself is unlikely to predict.I.P.8. All the more if it's a woman, it's unprecedented. What the H.E.L.L is this? He quietly murmured as he racked his brains. It appeared that in the Beastman tribes, it's a world-shaking situation like a woman sumo wrestler entering the Yokozuna judge subject. Note, Yokozuna is the highest rank in sumo, and in order to be promoted a council of non-wrestlers is appointed to judge if they should be promoted to Yokozuna. For me, in Eternal Horizon Online, there were a lot of female rabbit-eared characters as swordsmen, so I don't think it's particularly a rare thing. Wait. Don't tell me, it's a player. Just now, all gazes within the room gathered on me. Is there a possibility that the person named Chloe is a Transcendence player? At the frowning Utsuho who questioned me, I also tilted my head in puzzlement. I think I haven't heard her name, at least her name isn't in the peerage, but perhaps the possibility exists. By all rights, a representative appearing from the Impossible Sex of the Impossible tribe will probably have very outstanding abilities. If they're a player, there's plenty of potential. I certainly believe they might use such a direct method. However, taking into account the Beast King's speech, if they become the overall winner, for the time being, becoming Cress Kingdom's leaders. H.I+P will only be a possibility. That Chloe, someone who no one knows where she originated from? There's not gonna be a problem even she wins. Well, besides that, perhaps there are particular favorites. The player defeats tough-looking opponents and lets the favorite win by match fixing. Or possibly, they identified that I appeared to watch, arranged that conspicuous position on purpose to draw our attention, and then would use that for something. At this stage, I judged there was nothing we could do. In either case, it's not likely it will proceed without issue. I wonder if Ravan-kun will be alright. Well, if he can't, then just give up. It doesn't matter to me one way or another. Now, the day before qualifier match, tents for various tribes are lined up here and there. On the foot of the Sacred Beast Hill, at the corner of the Demon Wolf feeding ground, there was a familiar lion, New Grove, tribe tent. Hi, how are you, both of you? For the preliminaries, it seems you were determined to be in this group, weren't you? Guided by Zisis-san, within the tent I secretly visited, there were some familiar faces. Ah, long time no see, Hyuki-sama. I'm just perfect. With her usual shape and cheerfulness, Asmina took both of my hands and swung them. Behind me, Zisis-san is confused, letting out an awawa sound, but it naturally didn't reach my ears. IMH here is difficult to say. In front of me, Ravan was melancholic in the corner of the tent. What is that? You see. Today, the preliminary drawing was done. Brother's opponent was decided, but his first opponent is the female Rabbit Man tribe warrior, Ho, suddenly a clash with the favorite. Hearing that, his motivation disappeared and he started sulking like that. There is no particular relation that race or sex has with strength. Strong people are strong, you know. For example, in the case that the opponent is a player, things like race and sex are irrelevant. I persuaded him like that, but he will not wake at all. Asmina's appearance showed she was utterly at a loss. For some reason I felt anger surging within my chest. Princess, is it all right discipline this fool to teach him how strong women are? Yeah, sure. No. I'm not looking at this as a woman. I'm just unable to stomach a person who makes light of someone based on prejudice or appearance, so don't get me wrong. Ho, such confidence you have there. Then, right before I was about to open my mouth, a familiar large build pushed up the entrance cloth and magnificently entered in. Grand Uncle. Master. Beast King. The three hastily stood up to pay him their respect. Wearing his usual dark blue robe while displaying his usual relaxed manner, the Beast King took a look at his pupil's, Ravan, face. Just at the right time. I am curious how much you improved during my absence, and also as a test, you get a bit of coaching from Her Majesty, Hyuki. Ha! With the face screaming, you have to be kidding, right? Ravan looked between mine and the Beast King's faces. On the other hand, Asmina probably perceived a bit of my abilities. She pinned her face and looked up to the ceiling, her face saying, "You still haven't noticed it? This brother, moron, You succeed if you can last 3 minutes against Her Majesty. Any less than that and you will be excommunicated. You also can't predict I.P.8 in this tournament. Okay? Is Your Majesty also fine with it?" Sure, I nodded, and Ravan, who was fluid U.S.tiered, still can't grasp the meaning behind it. It's gonna be funsmas.h.I plus ng this braggart, isn't it? Chapter 3 Episode 10 End. Kyuuketsu Hime Ch3 Episode 11 A present from Tony Yan. I actually did nothing. Arrogant and conceited heart TL Tony Yan Ed crash. I guess this place will do. The giant figure who wore dark blue robes, the Beast King, nodded and said that after looking around for a while. No problem. Or rather, this will end in 3 minutes, right? We don't have to go this far. The one who said that lightly was Hyuki, who wore short line above the knee with roses arrangement, rows of wartime fire, and of Geierstein. Well, the lineup is a bit special after all. We can't let others see. He looked at Hyuki and the one who followed her closely from behind. It was a fair-skinned beastman with 9 tails, the divine beast Utsuho, who had transformed into her human form and was smiling wryly. That said, the Beast King himself, who stood at the top of Beastman, will also draw attention even if he doesn't mean to. Divine Beast Sama, Asmina, the Lion Tribe's Shrine Maiden, showed an unusually timid attitude while addressing Utsuho. What is it, Shrine Maiden of the Lions? After this tournament ends, by all means, I implore you, please visit our tribe. All the members of our tribe will welcome your presence with our utmost respect. As long there will be a banquet of fresh harvested goods and sacred wine, then I won't mind. However, pressing the folding fan to her mouth, she looked at Asmina in a pleased manner. By the way, she is pleased with Asmina, since she is a piquant child, or so she said while squinting her eyes, and continued. I am Princess Retainer, so I can't do it without Princess permission. In a flash Asmina's gaze fell, height-wise, automatically to Hyuki's beautiful face. Only if he can hold on for 3 minutes. If he can't, or if he does something unsightly, well, you know the answer yourself. Hearing Hyuki's answer, the blood drained from Asmina's face, and she quickly grabbed her brother's chest tightly and shook it roughly, although Ravan, who stood beside her, hadn't caught up with the situation. Did you hear that? Did you get it, Ravan Nii-sama? Our tribe's life or death is on the line, or rather the entire Beastkin tribe's reason for existence is in peril right now. If Hyuki-sama abandons us, then our tribe will meet its end. If Divine Beast-sama abandons us, you will be labeled as the one disgracing our tribe, and those labels will stick onward with our descendants. Do you really understand? I know. I just need to win, right? Ravan broke free from her hands with force, and answered as if they're troublesome things. This idiot brother of mine really doesn't understand a thing. Do you think you have a chance this late in the game? In an instant, understanding the hopelessness, Asmina crumbled down in despair. In a place a little bit away from them, Hyuki talked to the Beast King in an uncomfortable manner. How should I put it? Even the simpleton who didn't think about anything, Joey, and the idiot who was too trusting, Prince Ashel, both have lovable parts in them, but this is the first time I've seen a nitwit who completely doesn't have a clear understanding of his opponent at all. Is this personality perhaps created by the environment? I am truly ashamed. The Beast King lowered his head with a sour expression. I actually planned to only beat him up a little, but it seems if I don't completely destroy him it won't do. By the way, since we study from the same mentor, though it's not quite satisfactory, he's still my senior apprentice, is it fine for me to beat him to pulp? This is not a personal affair after all, so both of you should show your full capacity and compare them for me to see. If you hold back, I think it will disgrace me. Hyuki-sama is also Grand Uncle's disciple? Then you're senior and junior apprentices with brother. Hearing their conversation, Asmina said that in a hysteric voice. Ravan also started to show vigilance in his eyes. Well, I just received his training recently, so I think it's still presumptuous to claim to be a junior disciple. Hyuki shrugged her shoulder lightly. I see. Also, it's not junior disciple but junior sister disciple. Hyuki's eyes avoided Asmina as she corrected her about it. Right. Junior sister disciple, yup. That's right. That is why there's no need to hold back. Hearing the Beast King's solemn voice, Ravan took his stance with his 2 fists clenched and said understood. However, as expected, he was still looking down on her. She's a new disciple and a girl. That kind of aura was still visible from him. Then I too am ready. Hyuki also took her stance, however she had her palms open. Princess, are you not going to use Sinner of Rose, Jill de Race? Utsuho tilted her head in confusion. Well, today is just something like a greeting. Then, here I come. Come. In an instant, with her leg strength, Hyuki kicked the ground and closed the gap of 5 meters in almost 0 seconds. And at the same time she waved her right hand at the still dumbfounded Ravan's face. Asmina, who looked on from the distance, can even see the after image as Hyuki's palm traveled to and fro 8 times. 1 moment later the clear slapping sound resounded. Ha! And the next moment, together with her yell, Hyuki sent a low kick toward Ravan's right leg at the backside around the ligament, and drove it upward. Ravan, who lost his balance, looked at his flank and saw Hyuki's right leg that was covered by her skirt was raised lightly, shuyo. And it flew at him as roundhouse kick. Gan. Together with a heavy sound, Ravan's face was repelled and his legs even left the ground. Furthermore, with her right leg still folded, she used her left leg as an axis and turned around like comet, and without killing her momentum added centrifugal force to drive another roundhouse kick toward Ravan's abdomen. Don. A heavy and blunt voice as if beating a drum was resounded. And Ravan's body was sent flying around 10 meters from the ground. And when his body finally landed, because he unable to mitigate the force, he dug a trench with his body and in the end rolled into the ground like a rag before stopping. It's settled, huh? Atsuho muttered while covering her mouth with the folding fan and yawned in boredom. Far from 3 minutes, he didn't even last 10 seconds. The Beast King offered his agreement blandly. Well, I guess so. Hyuki sighed in lamentation. Good grief, what a dull result. The three of them showed similar expressions. At that time they noticed some movement from the cloud of dust. And when they looked at it, they saw Ravan who should have lost consciousness trying to stand up. He has surprising fighting spirit or not, the three of them glanced to their side. The one who stood there was Asmina with both her hands open and aimed toward her brother. From her palms a faint light mist flowed toward her brother. Ahaha, actually usually I cast strengthening magic at brother before he fights, but I completely forgot this time. That's why I cast it midway. Is it perhaps not allowed? Asmina made an excuse with a troubled expression. Everyone here can see what she used just now is not strengthening magic, but healing magic. However, Atsuho let it slide with no interest. The Beast King just shrugged his shoulder lightly, and Hyuki, I see, well, since it's just an accident then that's fine. I'll allow it this time. But I won't allow it a second time. Knowing what Hyuki implied, Asmina nodded with a stiff expression. TCH, I was unprepared. Thanks to Asmina's healing magic, Ravan, who recovered from the damage, wiped the blood in his mouth and tried to stand up. Unprepared? Please stop saying something like that, Ravan Nai-sama. Looking at Ravan's attitude, he didn't seem too willing to listen to Asmina's reprimands. Hyuki's eyes closed halfway and she pointed her finger towards herself. It seems I need to hit both sides or it will be meaningless. Previously I was the one who attacked, now it's your turn. Don't be c.o.c.ky. Using something like the thunder leg or echo step, Ravan strongly kicked the ground and as if he was gliding, he reached Hyuki's range. Don't screw with me. I've been training hard since I was 5 for more than 10 years. There's no way I will lose to someone who just started training yesterday. While screaming that in his heart, he used the skill he learned directly from the Beast King, a trusting technique used for beheading, toward Hyuki with all his power. You have a lot of useless movements. While lightly commenting on his strike, Hyuki turned to the side when his attack almost hit her and caught his right wrist. What? Not giving him any chance to react, Hyuki swept his leg and threw him to the ground with a one-armed shoulder throw. Gaiaik. While Ravan was writhing in agony on the ground, Hyuki looked at the Beast King. Actually, about this technique's weakness, if the opponent fixed their position at the point of impact or let it slide, it will be turned into a simple striking technique. Well, since the current opponent is inexperienced I don't even need to use parallel thought. That's true. Well, it's true that it might be better to learn the foundation rather than various small techniques when still young, since leaving it to power and speed is more effective, but to think his skill has become this dull. Good grief, a loser who doesn't understand their position is painful to watch. Hearing Hyuki's voice, the Beast King's disgusted response, and Atsuho's sneer, dam.nu. With an angered expression he forcibly stood up and threw all the emotion he felt toward Hyuki. I won't forgive you. After shouting he ran towards Hyuki. His movements can't be called refined, having both his self-confidence and pride destroyed, he left it all to his emotions, just like a wounded beast. However, towards that center thrust which was done. Half-reflexively, Hyuki turned counterclockwise to evade it, then drove her left elbow towards Ravan's stomach, Yotu. Guha. Thrown a few meters by the impact, the air in Ravan's lung left his body and quickly his consciousness was covered by a veil of darkness. Sama Nii-sama. Hang in there, Ravan Nii-sama. On the verge of falling to the darkness, hearing her sister's familiar voice and feeling the warm drop of something fall from her cheek, Ravan opened his hazy eyes. It seems he was sprawled on his back. and Asmina was crying and calling while covering him up. Though he lost consciousness only for a few seconds, apparently it reset his anger and returned his emotions to a blank state. She's crying. For my sake. I made her cry. Asmina cared about him from the bottom of her heart. When he noticed her figure he felt something ripping his heart. And then at that time he noticed, while the Beast King reprimanded him, at the same time his strict gaze never abandoned him. Also, the consideration and worry in Hyuki's eyes, while she beat him up. Noticing all of that, he felt a shame he never felt before. What the h.e.l. am I doing? I became conceited because I was called the Beast King successor, and believed that I am strong and can do anything if I feel like. It is because of that pride that I disregarded people around me and lived as I pleased. And the result was that no one, not even me, cared about myself. And then because of my confidence of being strong, when I was defeated by this girl who was smaller than me, I can't accept my own inexperience but resent her instead. What an unsightly person I have become. Resenting others won't make me advance forward. Rather, what awaits me is only self-destruction. When he noticed that, he felt a fire ignited in his body. I can't let it end like this. His eyes opened. There's no longer any cloudiness in it. I am fine, Asmina. Don't worry. He smiled, and patted her head like he did when they were still children. Ravan and I-sama. Resisting the urge to vomit, and the cold sweat flowing in his body, Ravan stood up and bowed toward Hyuki. Your Highness, may I ask for one more chance? Sure. With pleasure. Toward Hyuki, who smiled happily, he once again expressed his thanks. The next head of New Grove tribe, Ravan, coming. Imperial Crimson Sovereign, Hyuki. I accept that challenge. Finest.h.I plus ng their greetings, Ravan stepped in. Actually his condition is no longer suited for battle, but with his remaining willpower he sent a straight thrust towards Hyuki. Different from before, his speed has fallen, and yet there's no more useless movements, a move faithful to the basics. Hyuki smiled, and sent a similar thrust. And the time their techniques met, a dry slapping sound resounded between them. Then, in front Asmina who waited with bated breath, Ravan's body slowly slid and fell. He already said the limits of his mind and body, but the expression he showed is one of satisfaction. Leaving the rest to Asmina who rushed towards Ravan, Hyuki smiled wryly from feeling the numbness in her left hand which was used to parry Ravan's strike. Then, did all of that reach 3 minutes? There are many things I am not satisfied with, but I guess he barely said. In response to Hyuki's question, the Beast King answered with his usual stern expression. Well, he did have the willpower. It seems Utsuho's opinion of him changed slightly. Well, I think he won't lose at the preliminaries at least. Hyuki shook her head. EP 11 End. Episode 12 The preliminary begins the fight to decide the next Beast King. The preliminary match is held at Crest Kingdom's holy ground feeding grounds of the demon wolves which is at the base of the sacred beasts hill till the 3rd day. Incidentally, the opposite of this hill is the bed of sleeping earth dragons which is also holding a preliminary match and those who win during the 4th day will qualify for the next match, which will take place on the Saint Beasts Hill. For that reason, we're currently at the feeding grounds of the demon wolves where the preliminary match also takes place. There should be a room created for the N.O.Bli visitors but isn't this just a poor excuse of isolating us? From atop deluxe tower where I can see the match arena in a single sweep without any obstruction, I watched a group of tents on the opposite side of the arena. Within those tents, as elder and chief of the Beastman tribe are socializing, as if they noticed the threat from here, and instinctively had cold feet remembering those figures, I gave a sigh. Rather than being treated as royalty, I've been given a cheap seat. Are you not happy with this arrangement, princess? Tenge, dressed in a tuxedo and standing beside me asked. I thought for a second and answered honestly. I'm a little unsatisfied with it but there's no choice. After all, I'm the one who is an uninvited guest. Actually, there's plenty of food at the watchtower, fruits, drinks, and other delicacies were lined up, but there's N.O.Body here who gave me a warm reception. If you were to wait for a moment, I can remove the cause if you order me to do so. Tenge said as if he was going to remove a few garbage from the hallway, bowing in a carefree manner. Wait, are you going to smash them before the tournament even starts? I'll be happy if you didn't do that, but if they're telling me to do it on my own, then I shall do so. So, can you help me a bit? Tenge. Ha. At the tent of the Lion New Grove tribe who will predict .I.P.8 at the first tournament match in the prelims, tension was in the air. Hey, how's the body condition, the two of you? The wounds from yesterday are not affecting you in any way, right? At the open S.P.A.ce in front of the tent, Ravan is warming up. Asmina wiped his sweat, supplied him with water, inadvertently touching his body. They gaped as they looked at my face, which is hidden by an inconspicuous robe. Your Majesty. Why are you here, eh? Aren't you at the N.O.ability seats? At the place which Asmina pointed, atop a 5m tall tower made of wood is a stage where can be seen anywhere from the venue. That's where I am overlooking the surrounding with a calm face. Ah, that's a substitute I.Toot. Gah, a substitute I.Toot? Could it be that's AS.H.I plus N.O. by Shadow Warrior? Those who were heard in rumors but never seen, Asmina looked at the person who replaced me as if it was something rarely seen. Well, truly they are puppets made of magic which replicates my appearance, but when you look at it closely they're still a little different. For example, the feeling of their skin or their eyes movement, their temperature, or their figure which gives off a doll-like feel. If you can't sense it then you must be dumb. Anyone would say that. Should the real thing be seen, then the visitors from afar would suddenly have a gleam in their eyes and say please give one of them, with their fist pumping. As a camouflage, stood next to the puppet is Tenge who is frowning. It's just as he expected, this sort of entertainment is only interesting when watched like this. Anyway, that's how I slipped out, but your body's condition looks good. As if to answer my words, Ravan's mouth suddenly morphed into a smile. Yeah, it's all thanks to your Majesty. From now it would be a match, no, a death match, where enthusiasm or tragedy completely cannot be experienced. It was a cheerful smile without a single blot like the blue skies. What do we have here? It seems like you have transformed overnight into someone else. If Ravan is an opponent now he can probably put up a good fight, and I'm glad of it. That's great. Today, you're making a great expression. Don't worry, you'll win for sure. Thank you. Although yesterday Majesty has blown my useless past self till I flew, today I promise you I'll be returning the favor by not showing you a clumsy fight. Is that so? Whether you'll win or lose, you'll be giving it your all. I can look forward to his determination. Anno, your Majesty. From somewhere Asmina's voice was heard accompanied a strange aura. Oddly, the mood between you and brother is good. Could it be you're trying to steal my brother from me? There's no way, right? As her eyes that seemed like black holes were aimed at me, I shook my head in panic. Anyway, that's quite a light armor you're wearing. Don't you have any other protective gear? Ravan changed from his regular traditional clothes, but it's not wrong to say the only change is that there's no more sleeves, which allowed easy movement. Extra protective gear will only end up restricting my movements. Is this bad? Yes. It's alright if it's the usual match, but this time around your opponent will be using strengthened weapons. You should at least put on minimal protective gears. At that time, with a sudden playfulness I retrieved a few armor pieces from a bag around my waist and showed Ravan. Are those arm guards and leg guards? As plain black unadorned guards meets his eyes, Ravan spilled his honest impressions. Yeah, the arm guards are called Kanshou and the leg guards are called Bakia. With these you might be fine. Receiving those equipments, Ravan wore them. He wore Kanshou on his arm like a sleeve and Bakia was adjusted around his hips. It's slightly big and heavy, but not to the point of disrupting my movement. Ravan thought it would enable him to make swift hand and foot movements. That's a relief. By the time you reach a certain level, it will automatically readjust the weight, and it'll be able to show you its true powers. With that, I acknowledge you who N.O. body recognizes as the Beast King. I added in my heart. Well, for now, these can be considered as very durable protective gear. With my words, Ravan bowed his head with an expression filled with admiration. Understood. I'll be borrowing it. No, it's fine. I'll give it to you. It doesn't suit my way of fighting. It's fine, but isn't it an expensive thing? A tool is a tool. It's like that situation when you finally got the strongest sword, because if you use it the endurance will drop, so you kept it in the warehouse, and then used poorer weapons to fight, that sort of player. However, in my case, I'm like, how could you not use that equipment? Instead of hesitating, I've been using such things many times. Understood. I give my sincerest gratitude. Ravan accepted the item bestowed with a bow. For the equipment of the former Beast King to end up in my hands, it's like the current Beast King accepted his successor. I don't believe in destiny, but this may be another form of fate. Well, to be honest, there are people who rather not accept such equipment because it was equipment held by a pervert who liked to sage other people's brie.s.t.s. Ha, with a complex expression, Ravan's line of sight dropped to Kanchao and Bakia. Without further ado, the first match begins. Lion Tribe's next chief vs Rabbitman Tribe's adventurer Chloe. The arena, even though it's called that, it's actually just a wasteland which was cleared for with a 100m square with a pile of soil around it, similar to a sumo's arena. Surrounding that area is the two tribes. Since earlier, shouts of anger and excitement came from those vested in the fight. Even so, compared to the Lion Tribe, the excitement from the Rabbitman Tribe seemed rather subdued, similar to the Ravan from yesterday. The opponent is from the weak Rabbitman Tribe, not to mention a female. They're probably looking down on her. After the signal of the referee, both representatives approached the center of the arena. I might be mistaken. She doesn't seem to be a player. Looking at Ravan's opponent, the Rabbitman Tribe adventurer, I tilted my head. On one side, Asmina, who had been spectating next to me, was so confused that she started gripping and pestering me for answers. What do you mean? What is it? Isn't she from the Rabbitman Tribe? Are all women adventurers like that? No, she's probably special. That which I was referring to is the opponent, the Rabbitman Tribe's female adventurer, Chloe. If a word has to be said, she's tough. With a body height of almost 2m, sharp eyes topped by large eyebrows, a square jaw that branches into two, all her muscles seems ready to burst, and each of her arms are around the size of my chest. Unknown if those chests are brie.s.t.s or muscles. They were strained and ready to burst. Not only that, they were wrapped in a bikini-like armor, followed by 8 packs. The part without feminine curves is completely an Anaki's, big bro, b.u.t.t sort of butt. A gigantic lump of muscles, that's what she is. On the top of this person's head, a pair of Holland lop-type rabbit ears drooped down as if it was sorry it was there. This sort of rabbit ears, yeah, that has completely went beyond the limits of what we call a player character, is what I thought. Ravan looks at his opponent in front of him and sighed in his heart. It's a relief. From here onwards it's useless to ruminate about it. Hyuki let out an AA. As expected, it's difficult to raise one's hand to strike a woman. There's such a thing as being shameful of it in your mind. But the one in front of him is unmistakably a warrior. That's why it's impolite to not take her seriously. That's why it was said naturally, it's a relief to have you as my first opponent. Hearing that, Chloe had a dissatisfied look, knitting her eyebrows. And that's why you're looking down on me. You're mistaken. You are obviously a strong opponent. That's why I don't have to hold back when I beat you. Because of that I'm glad. In an instant, that befuddled look on Chloe had transformed into a bloodthirsty smile. Phew, fun, what a pleasant thing to say. I thought you were just a weak boy. It turns out you're a mediocre man. Besides, I see you have a really fine woman there. Ravan glanced to the field, noticing his younger sister who is looking at him and Hyuki, then answered with a bitter smile. That's right. I have women that are too good for me. Incidentally, was I rated as mediocre? If you were to win against me, I'll recognize you as a fine man. If that is so, then don't hold back. At that moment, begin, the referee signaled with the taiko drum. Ravan with his fists and Chloe equipped with her 2m cane, Normally blunt weapons in the shape of a stick are made of wood, but this cane seems to be made of gold. FNN, raising her fighting spirit, Chloe approached Ravan with the pointed end of her cane. As he dodged complacently, extend, with a speed that Serpa.S.S.E.'s imagination, the cane slides as she predicted to smash Ravan's face, and when it collided, it made a loud sound, followed by his body which was blown back. Ravan Nii-sama. Face distorting in panic, I calmed the Asmina who rushed forward and was bending over in worry. T/N, she isn't in the fighting area, they're watching somewhere further. It's fine. He put up his guards at the very last moment, even if he appeared to be knocked back, he eliminated the force of hit, so from here I can see there's no damage. Afterwards, given a few grim stares, Chloe's red cane was revealed. Isn't that a loot, drop item, the Rue Bang from Eternal Horizon Online? It's unlikely to appear in the market. It's just as I thought, there must be someone scheming while hidden. To this me, Asmina sent a worried look. Is it really fine? I think so. Also, before the match, Ravan Nii-sama was speaking with that woman intimately, should I be worried that he might cheat on me? You really don't change, do you? Episode 13, the condition for victory. Standing as if the surface of Earth was about to tumble, Ravan got up swiftly. When the cane was inches away from his face, he instantly brought both his arms together in the form of a cross. Seeing no marks left on the surface of Kanshou, he thanked Hyuki once again. It was immediately put to use. Good grief, I am truly blessed with a good woman. T/N probably Ravan said this. When Hyuki heard this, she grumbled about something worrisome. He faced Chloe again sighing, moving with the thunder leg, S.H.I plus Kyuuketsu Asterisk, skill which he had used against Hyuki the day before, he slid on the floor to close the gap between them. The weakness of using a cane is revealed when she is getting close to the opponent. Her attacks could come in all directions, left, right, up or down, but it didn't really have any threatening force behind it. Nope, those movements allowed her to mix in precise strikes within feints. Furthermore, it included her usual strikes which causes confusion to the sense of distance. Even if the opponent is a first CLA.S.S warrior, it's inevitable to receive damage. Chloe forms a sphere where she is the eye of the storm. However, with knowledge of the special characteristic extend distance, Ravan's eyes are able to follow the movement. With ease, he got closer to her. Ravan's right hand disappeared, and in the next moment, many sounds of strikes rang out at almost the same moment. To most of the spectators who were fixated at the match, flashes of jabs were delivered in the twinkling of an eye. TCH in this close-ranged battle the cane can't be used, Chloe concluded as she held it with her right hand and released a backhand chop with her left hand towards Ravan's back. Naturally, there's little chance for such a flutter of attacks to connect, but in this situation where the opponent is at a distance which is hard to dodge, she didn't actually think about whether she'd hit or miss in the attack. FNN. Slipping past the strike, Ravan placed his strength behind his left elbow and struck towards the defenseless part of Chloe's torso. The violent sound made the audience think the match is settled. However, Ravan, who should have settled the fight with that attack, widened his eyes in surprise and put a distance from Chloe as if he was flipped. He grasped his elbow and groaned in pain. How did that? Why did he? Why is it that Ravan Nii-sama who attacked has such a bitter expression? In the moment where the strike was confirmed, he had a joyful expression, but it had completely changed in an instant. Towards the confused and lost Asmina, the slightly amazed Hyuki explained. When the strike was about to land, she strengthened all of her muscles, thus the opponent ended up injuring themselves. Although how were her muscles strengthened anyway, that Oni-san? No, there's still many things in this world I have yet to see. Is he fine, that Nii-sama? Seems like it was a strength comparable to steel. Should it have been his fist, it might have been shattered. Since it's the elbow which can be said to be one of the strongest bones, I think it might have not shattered, said Hyuki with her head tilted. Phew, fun, aren't you quite well trained? Most men's thin elbow would have been shattered with that one hit. Well, you probably won't be using that left hand for a while. Chloe's words were answered with a bitter smile. Moving his other hand from his throbbing elbow, Ravan struck a pose, gripping his right hand. Even with one hand you're still determined. Of course, because my right hand and both of my feet are still fine. Not only that, to have a fine woman like you as my opponent, there's no way I would want to show you a pathetic sight. Ha, well, even if you were to flatter me I won't be showing my gratitude. With a somewhat apathetic expression, Ravan shrugged in Chloe's direction and answered her earnestly. It's not flattery. Overflowing with vitality, having the conviction to live spectacularly, the you who embodies the future of beast race is extremely beautiful. This time, the words put her in a good mood and made Chloe laugh. What pleasant words you say. You sure understand what a fine woman is. You, rather than a mediocre man, it's reasonable to recognize you as a fine man. That's an honor. Then, let's go. Yeah. What was that? All that about other women are beautiful. Is it because of the muscles? Are muscles the problem? Beside her, Asmina gripped Hyuki's shoulder and shook it. By the way, Zisis and other lion tribe members had backed away from them due to fear of being involved. No, well, how do I explain this? I understand. I'll put on muscles from today onwards. Meat? That's right, meat. Then, Hyuki-sama, will you please give me a hand in coming up with a method to gain muscles quickly? Erim, such as protein, steroids, and other things. Somehow it was a rather unproductive conversation from these two. Once again, Chloe launches a fierce attack. Ravan, who got closer to her, only finds himself the target of concentrated strikes from the left hand in the current dead s.p.a.ce. It's solid. For a beastman race to strike towards the opponent's weak point is not something shameful. It's the fault of those who leave their weak point open for others to exploit. Leaving it would only let the situation get worse, Ravan judged, so it's best to make a gamble. Dodging the cane's pointed end under his feet, he stepped forth with the thunder leg skill. Using the impact from the skill, he restricted the use of Chloe's hands and leaped to a closer range. That much must have been predicted, because in a moment the cane returned, ripping the air, attacking Ravan's left side. This attack was received and stopped by the arm guard on the left hand. To begin with, power was difficult to muster on the left hand, so the strike was stopped and am.u.f. fled sound was produced. Did it break? But he'll have to make allowances. If he attempted to move while trying to protect the wound on the left hand, no matter what, the defensive movement would have been unnatural and an opportunity, or weakness, would appear. Also, before centering your gravity, any attacks made would have been useless. Because of that, should the wound on the left hand not exist, and he is able to move as usual and receive it, this sort of conclusion would have been predicted. In the corner of his mind this has been confirmed as reality. As the pain in the left hand is thought as non-existent and placed aside, Ravan made a half-turn and using the right elbow, fully powering the strike towards Chloe's solar plexus. Ya. To have received this, all over again like earlier, Chloe smiled on the surface. Instantly, completely unlike the sound of people colliding, a huge blow reverberated throughout the area. With the two people as the center of the mound at the venue, cracks like fissures dashed across the earth. Phew, fun. What was the technique you used earlier? The tremors said through the body's core. A technique that could strike directly through steel to the interior. To be honest, I had to have the resolution to give up my right arm to use it. Is that so? Anyway, you had the opportunity to strike at my face from the start. Were you going easy on me? There's no way I would do that. It's just, well, men have to have our dignity. That's silly. Still, rather than a clever guy, I prefer idiots. Well, from now onwards, do your best. To be defeated by a fine man, I'm also satisfied. Saying these final words, she lost consciousness and collapsed, Ravan supporting her. A silent moment later, the spectators made an ear-piercing cheer, their shouts increasing in volume. In one match, the first round of the preliminary was over. Winner, Lion Tribe Ravan, loser, Rabbitman Tribe Chloe. Afterwards, the bouts proceeded favorably. The first round to 4 matches finished peacefully. The winner of the first match at Feeding Grounds of Demon Wolves preliminaries, other than Ravan, are Cheetahman Tribe's David, Bearman Tribe's Eugene and Snackyman Tribe's Cyril Star. It is just as I expected. At the Bed of Earth Dragon's preliminaries, a Kirin from the Tigerman tribe had instantly killed his opponent. It was a sure thing, so it wasn't interesting. Returning to city after today's results were confirmed, I sighed. Well, that's how it is, isn't it? By the way, how are my idiot disciples' wounds? That was heard nonchalantly from the Beast King, who was seated on the sofa, drinking delicious-looking coffee that is only obtainable from my country at this time. Asmina's healing magic asterisk, right? That was effective, and he completely recovered like usual, you know. I'm able to heal it at the venue, but as an unrelated third party, healing it might cause some people to complain, that's why I refrained from doing it. By the way, Asmina said that healing will be bothered by the clothes and happily stripped her brother naked, directly using her hands to give medical treatment. Could there be some sort of meaning behind it? Before this, when she had given medical treatment, even when dressed it was still effective, anyway that's what I noticed. It's probably something I should not delve into. That's what I concluded. To change the conversation topic, I turn back to the Beast King's thick-faced star. Or rather, if you were really worried about your disciple, isn't it better to take a look at him? Even after being invited, he would give this and that excuses and still not do it, Well, whether it is about the tournament or my idiotic disciple, it's already out of my grasp. FN. Then alright. Speaking of which, Mikoto. That thing I asked you to investigate. Mikoto, who had been restraining herself at a side, bowed. Yes, we traced the origin of the Ryuyi bang which the Rabbit Man adventurer had. It was purchased from a merchant, and I've spoken to the person. With the use of sense-lie magic I was able to confirm they're not lying. It came from the weapon dealer's By no means it is easy to catch someone by their tail. Suddenly, I asked the Beast King about the thing that had been bothering me since the preliminary match. Speaking of that, the magical weapon that Chloe used, isn't that against the rules of the tournament? T/N Hyuki, probably, there's no problem with that, it was answered swiftly. If you were to wield magical swords, divine swords, and other magical weapons, moreover to be seen that you were chosen to wield them, on the contrary, is actually worth praising. A splendidly irresponsible thing to do. You can't use magic, but a magical sword is fine. Hyuki, that sort of thing is hard to express. In the first place, if we were to say that, even those secret techniques you call skills can't be used. You mean it's fine to use skills? Of course. These secret techniques are the results of your training. Body would be afraid of what the others think of it anyway. Also, today's opponents did not use any of the advanced skills, but it'll be different tomorrow. Everyone doesn't just have one peculiarity, but fools with a bunch of peculiarities are everywhere. The Beast King laughed cheerfully. It's horrible for Ravan, isn't it? At the very least he should slowly rest so that he could restore his spirits for tomorrow. No, that's impossible, isn't it? Because in the same tent, Asmina will be there. Episode 14, The Hidden Asterisk Strategy. Asterisk, also known as the inner sleeve strategy, like how rogues hide weapons in their sleeves. The capital of Crescent Luna Federation, Fabula, is located roughly on the center of Cent Luna Nation. It functioned as the center of the Federation's politics and culture. The reason Fabula is located on the Cent Luna Nation is that this one pair of fragment that build up the foundation of the Federation, Cress Kingdom, is 100% composed of Beastman race, which is originally nomadic people. Basically, the main reason is that the nature of Beastmen led to not having a permanent town. Here and there are towns with only up to hundreds of people, and no interest in politics and diplomacy. Compared to that, Cent Luna Kingdom, which declared equality for humans, beast tribes, and demi-humans, regard themselves as a human country, taking the form of government of other countries, and proactively developing domestic and diplomatic ties. For that sake, in spite the fact that Cent Luna doesn't even have a mid-sized population and national strength, an enormous city and central government was created to establish authority and formal standing as the capital of the Federation Crescent Luna. In the capital Fabula, exists the head of the Federation's residence. Officially, it's the residence of Federation representative. But in reality, the palace is the real center of Federation. The current president of the Federation, Baldum, is the sovereign of St. Luna and Youth Grand Duchy, which is closely related to St. Luna. Although you can't say he's handsome, and his body grew fatter along with his middle age. Far from daring, he had a childlike charm in some aspects, making him seem good-natured to anyone who met him. That was the kind of human he is. In the lounge where the discussion over an hour between the Cress Kingdom representatives ended without reaching any agreements, he sat in an armchair, drinking tea that's been stippled many times, moistening his throat. With that done, he mustered his will and called for the secretary in the other room to receive the guests, tidy up the tea which was left by the guests and prepare fresh high-quality tea. Without a moment to wait, the figure of a gorgeous blonde man, dressed in dazzling armor with a mantle lined in red that did not show any country's affiliations, appeared. He already expected this person, but as for the small one standing next to the blonde man, entirely covered by robes, Baldum was secretly fluid u.s.tiered. A child? Judging from the figure it could be an elf. No, could it be? Thinking of the ident.I.tie of the armored man, due to the impossibility of it, he, mentally, shook his head in denial. While the Baldum that was making allowances for his doubt, that armored man immediately sat down in the sofa which the Cress Kingdom representative had vacated earlier. With a natural expression, the hooded figure followed suit and sat beside him. A gentle gesture thinly entered Baldum's line of sight. A woman? How was the result of the discussion? Seems there's no need to hear it, judging from your expression. After all, they are beasts. Just a bunch of brutes that can't do much, other than seeing the spoils in front of their eyes and swooping down to claim it. There's no way for them to see the general situation of this country. The armored man smiled, ridiculing the beast tribes that were here a moment ago. That may be true. No matter what you said to them, they replied with "We obey the will of the Beast King." It's impossible to talk with them. Baldum spits out hatefully. There has, ads by Google equals window.ads by Google, push, been a trend to backbite him. For example, he votes for himself, he's an ambitious one, or that he's an apostate who had forgotten the ideals of the Federation. However, from what he'd seen, those guys who wars.h.i plus p shady things like g.o.ds and divine beasts will only cripple their brains, and those that did nothing but give excuses are both despicable weaklings. For the him who is an advocate of being a realist, no matter how small the decision is, it would be his choice, and he will execute it. As a matter of course, there was always hesitation and pain, but he would defeat his indecision and bear the pain. He wasn't embarrassed by the path he chose, nor did he regret it. That's his way of living. If he were to compare it with himself, those who had relied on their faith in others, obeying the Beast King repeatedly, are really naive. To begin with, these guys don't understand the requirements of those who stand on top. To have righteous strength, skill, and heart is the king? What foolishness! In reality, such unselfish, pure people are powerless. The leader only has to look good, whether or not he is, does not actually matter. What's important is that they manage to show results. Speaking of which, the influence and the strength of the beast tribe in the Federation is nothing but a menace, and even though the Federation seem like they're walking hand in hand for now, Baldum secretly planned for invasion strategies. If he forced the recovery of the territory, the country would literally divide into two. To fail to evaluate the importance of a situation is something he would like to avoid at all costs. Thinking of that, the man in front of him could possibly hold the key to the situation. Really? Ian isn't b.u.t.ting into this case. Baldum's attempt at confirmation was answered aloofly by the man who had introduced himself as the Holy Kingdom of Ian's secret messenger, a man who is presently carrying a secret message signed and stamped by Pope. Naturally, our country is usually neutral. We would never support one side. Should the war be prolonged and exhausting, right, when the territory is liberated, we will act as mediator. However, in accordance to Holy Kingdom of Ian belief, the state religion cannot recognize the settlement of beastmen and demi-humans are the minimum requirement for our help. Armored man, FN. That sort of condition is easy enough. Are there any other conditions? Something as tempting like that sure has a backstory asterisk to it. For Baldum, who does not have a shred to trust in human decency, there's an inner glow in his eyes. That would have made this short. I would have liked the problems in the Federation to be solved as soon as possible. There exists a hidden side to these cheerful words. In short, suppression through military force. Understanding this, Baldum grimaced. What would you do if before I could take over the Federation and making a swift result so that the Federation does not break, the Federal had already been drowned in internal conflict? That would be putting the cart before horse. He looked at the Baldum opposite him. To start with, is it because there's two heads that it's a problem? If there's only one body, surely it wouldn't have been as difficult to choose where to go. In actuality, the rights to rule this Federation is already in your hands. Fundamentally, to split the body equally in half was your own choice. Isn't it? Armored Man, that's true. However, Baldum, then isn't it better to strike while the iron is still hot? For the Baldum who is hesitating, his words were reaching out like the whispers of the devil. No, as I thought, it's impossible. Overlook these bunch and join up with Imperial Crimson Kingdom. We don't know the might of Imperial Crimson's army. If I played the wrong hand, I might end up suffering from the backlash. He managed to keep himself in check with his ideal as a realist. I see, that's certainly true. The man who claims to be the secret messenger from Holy Kingdom of Ian leaned forward, while the other one Sofa surrendered her weight to the sofa while grinning broadly with a childlike smile as if she's ready to play a prank on someone. If that problem was taken care of, what would you say? What? Baldum answered with a voice filled with doubt, to hear from the third person who had kept quiet since the discussion began. The hood covering her was lifted. It can't be. Underneath the hood was, as he predicted, a woman, or rather, it was a girl in brilliant red and jet black. Around the age of 12 to 13 years old, with long flowy black hair held together by something that seems like silk. Her pupils are like brilliant red jewels, her nose and eyes arranged in a perfect balance. She was a beautiful to the point of raising goosebumps on your skin. Not only were her features gorgeous, she unmistakably have the elegance of a G.O.dis and mystery, a peerless beauty. Baldum was frightened not because of her beautiful appearance, but because those characteristics of appearance were mentioned in a report which were the symbols of that certain person. That is Imperial Crimson's sovereign, Hyuki. How could it be? Is the demonic kingdom Imperial Crimson working together with Ian? Seeing his condition, the man smiled at the success of his prank. Even if we are posing with swords for the rest to see, we're often cooperating under the table and more. The teachings of G.O.D is important, but without bread and water, men can't survive. I see. That way of thinking was very convincing to Baldum. He peered at Hyuki, who shrugged her shoulders lightly in agreement. Well, even if we were to cooperate, we'd still like to cooperate with the winners. Deeper than what he imagined, Hyuki responded with the voice of a matured woman. Thereupon you have no intentions to support Crest Kingdom, is that what you mean, Your Highness? I don't have the intention now. I just thought that the selection of the Beast King was interesting, so I went to inspect it. Other than that, there's no meaning behind it. I see. What do you think? Is there still no problem? The smiling man who summed it up with those words pushed for a decision. The two small and big shadows returned to the parlor and walked in the hallways of the official residence of the president. The large one in the gorgeous armor spoke to the little girl walking beside him. That was scary. Somehow we managed to finish it up before the mimicry card's time limit end. Well, as long as it was ended before anything happens, isn't it fine? Besides, how was I? I'm look just like Hyuki-chan, don't I? I initially wanted speak more politely though. Unlike earlier, speaking with a familiar manner with her right hand around the nape, was a flirtatious girl. No, it's not the situation where you need to speaking as if you're with close friends. The contents of that talk was spoken as it should be. Is that so? Then I've succeeded. Smiling, she nodded. With that sort of appearance, she began to ask the man with a somewhat complex expression. So, how was it? Hyuki's appearance. Did it not change? In between the time where we did not meet, HN? I wonder. I only looked from a distance and remembered her form for the mimicry card, so for the rest of the details, it's not as if I observed right beside her. She's cuter than I thought. He seems resigned into being a girl. It's foul play, isn't it, to act as a girl? Ha, is that so? HN? It's not as if it was unexpected, before this she was already like that, could it be? Nah, to begin with, he or she was a person who didn't really feel the differences between genders that much. It was the case that it only brought out an attractiveness, at least this was what that's been recorded in the chat between guild members. That is possible too. He said. The girl who tilted her head, an obscene smile appeared on her face in the next moment. In that case, would you like to embrace this body? Gazing at that sort of face on the other person, the man changed to a cold expression. I haven't been looking at her like that, and please don't use her form to say such insulting statements of Hyuki-san. Hearing the penetratingly cold tone, the girl shrugged her shoulders as if she isn't shy. Why, my apologies. Boss had happily hugged though. And then, after finest.h.i+ng, she clicked her tongue in a bored manner. Even though she did not continue to speak without a shred of self-respect, but with those words earlier, the man's expression twisted, as if he had to hold on to something with all his strength. Pshh. I worried Asmina the next morning since I started sneezing suddenly as I felt violent chills. Is it a cold, Hyuki-sama? No, I just suddenly felt like there's an itch in my nose. It's settled, so it's fine. We're the same venue yesterday where the prelims occurred, Demonic Wolf's feeding grounds. With a fog in front of us, the first match in the second round of the tournament, Ravan vs Giant Rock of the Bearman tribe, Eugene, is about to begin. Well, the opponent's a 700 kilograms giant, but the match is out to begin. It's fine, for Ravan Nyisama, a 1000 kilograms monster can be defeated with his bare hands. Asmina answered, full of confidence. As expected, the difference in weight is unrelated, or rather, normally weight of the mobs in a game are 1 ton and above. Now that I mentioned it, that sort of handicap is normal for the previous world. On the signal of the referee, both sides advanced to the center of the match. What bear is that? In spite of myself, I said it with a silly voice. What do you mean? That's a bearman. Ah, a bearman can completely seem like a monster. Most people are used to it, so it's rare to see those who aren't. No, that may be one thing, but certainly the name Huge Rock is suitable for such a large man. As Asmina said, a bear is completely standing in sight, covered from head to toe by tough, oily fur. Ears pointed upwards, sharp eyes, a large mouth with rows of teeth peeped out, claws sprung from 2 rough hands capable of tearing steel. However, even with an appearance of a beast, it wore something similar to a karate gi, with a padded undergarment, closed with a leather belt from the front. The bottoms were a pair of pants in the same color and material, and while you can sense it has intelligence, a pressure you can't deny is from a wild beast as he faced his opponent. And then most of all, the characteristics of it, the fur color all over it is white, yet around the ears and the eyes, both hands, both feet are completely black. Isn't that a panda? Unintentionally I let out a shout. Huh? But it's a bear, right? Bewildered by my vigor, Asmina C.O.C. Ked her head in puzzlement. What is it? Could it be my surprise is the one that's odd, and that's just common sense? Yeah, you may be right. But even at the first match, the beast race members can't live without making jokes. Towards my honest thoughts, Asmina tilted her head in contemplation. Chapter 16 Forgetting Others, Benefiting Oneself. In the tent of the Snackyman tribe, in an area he ordered that N.O. body is allowed to enter since it's a distraction, 2 guys faced each other. Covered in scales from the top of the crown to the feet, dressed in a leather armor that's easy to move in, the 2 sides of his waist were with 2 Mikazuki scimitars, the man, Cyril, the mercenary, who had finished the second match of the preliminary round earlier. And thus, to face each other, or more precisely, both hands and feet attached to shackles, turning over on the ground, is similarly a Snackyman. No, even though you can't assume it's someone from a different tribe, if seen by Snakemen they will doubt their eyes. The reason being, the one who is turned over is unmistakably Cyril, the same person as well. With entirely similar appearances, these two guys, one side stood and looked down at the other with scorn, the other looked up from the ground with hatred. Although it is impossible to create such a composition, whether fortunate or unfortunate, there were n.o.body else but these two parties in this place. An idiot, aren't you? If you were to cooperate with me from the start, you could have become the Beast King without going through this. From the mouth of the Cyril who stood, the youth-like voice came out. Stop s.c.r.e.w.i.n.g around. Winning through a substitute I.toot. ub.a.s.t.a.r.d, are you insulting a warrior's pride? The one who turned over spoke with a voice with an outer appearance that suited someone around 30 years old, striking with the tone of someone who sounds like they'd been vomiting blood. Ha, I can't understand this. To not need to dirty one's hand and obtain the outcome at a safe place. If it's me, I'd skip with delight. Because b.a.s.t.a.r.ds like you don't understand a warrior's heart. Rather than throwing away my pride, I rather choose to die. At that lamentation, the youth Cyril laughed scornfully. Good grief, this is why primitive people, well, it's up to you if you want to die, but whether you like it or not, before the tournament ends you'll have to stick around. Whoops, stun blow. Gyu. Sensing movement that the poisonous fangs were about to lunge at him, in an instant, he swiftly unleashed the skill and mowed down that mental awareness. Quickly forcing a gag into the mouth, as he clicked his tongue, Cyril's appearance, abruptly like a painting blurred by water, within the blink of an eye is shorter by a head with a slender form. He had changed into a youth with light blue hair from the Wolfman tribe. Realizing his transformation ended, he sighed. Did the effect end? Once the memory is used within 24 hours, the transformation only lasts for 30 minutes. If there isn't such a limit to the mimicry card, then I would have killed this snake immediately. While grumbling continuously, from nowhere, he took out a card made of metal. As if it was a polished mirror, turning it around, the real Cyril's appearance is reflected in it for not more than 30 seconds, makes a chime sound, it's done. As if it was troublesome, the youth puts it away again. Now, for the time being, before winning tomorrow's prelim match, even though I've said n.o.body can come in here, in the unlikely event it does occur, it will be bad, so this idiot, the real Cyril, could be closed in the box over there. Thinking, oh, ads by Google equals window.ads by Google, push, f that, the youth's line of sight as he turned around, meets a small doll sitting on a pile of clutter and he b.u.mped the front. He was startled, his face trembling. Appearing to be modeled after a life-sized young girl, it was a doll around 2.5 heads tall, with straight black hair till the waist, brilliant red pupils, wearing a black dress with red roses arranged on it. No matter how you look at it, it's the sovereign of Imperial Crimson, Hyuki in SD asterisk form. How could it be here? And, in front of the dumbfounded youth, the strangest thing happened. The doll moved smoothly like a human, folding one's arms, and from the mouth came a voice like the sound of silver bells. I see you've gotten mimicry card. It's true that in Eternal Horizon Online's early days it was given out as freebies for premium gacha, isn't it? At the time I haven't started playing, so there was no chance for me to obtain one directly, so I couldn't recall it. Are you Hyuki? Why are you in that form? Like the howl of a wild beast, he asked. By chance, she shrugged over her overcoat. Since the body proportions are small, each and every gesture had to be communicated in a big way. Again, not realizing those gestures were cute, as Hyuki doll answered. My engineer's Asterisk made this while playing around. It's called Sorcery Doll number 3 Chibi Chibi Hyuki-chan. It's quite convenient, in this way it can even be used for collecting intelligence. By the way, this Chibi Chibi Hyuki-chan seems to have a section of wildly enthusiastic fans. During the production many of them were lost due to being stolen, and at the same time, Tenge, Marudo and many others were suddenly averse to guests entering their room, as if they had some article of rare beauty. The case was immediately put to rights, as Mikoto and elite guards performed spot check, premises search, arrangements. Dam.n, as always, ub.a.s.t.a.r.d asterisk keep messing around. T/n, the word Cyril used is Yara. In regards to the insufferable spitting of the youth, Chibi Chibi Hyuki tilted her head. Ma, it's true that originally I'm a young guy star. By the way, my apologies, but you said as usual, in the first place, who are you? It feels like I've seen you before. T/N, the word Hyuki used is still Yara, just with different tone. Hearing these words, the youth's expression turned red due to anger and embarrassment. You've forgotten me. Why is it compared to me, when you've always received court rank earlier, this me? I don't hold court rank. Other than 4 people in my guild, there's also, even though she's counting with her fingers, with an atmosphere as if she couldn't remember it, looking at the youth's face with her head tilted. At the very least tell me which guild you belong to. T/N, Hyuki's line, quit messing around. You've met with Aniki and me face to face before, right? Are you making light of me? T/N, do note this line isn't translated well, and is in need of moderation. If you can understand and agree with this TL, do leave a comment. Along with an angry roar, he drew his katana in an instant. With the katana skill IAI, the youth turned Chibi Hyuki-chan into pieces. Nevertheless, while the anger had yet to settle, the body was kicked. In that instance, from the pocket, a map spills over and fall. Picking it up while puzzled, a mark X was written on it, a short distance away from the preliminary tournament venue. They'll be waiting at this place? Don't joke with me. After a short wait, at that place, previously, at the desolate plains where Ravan fought, the youth who is the player that transformed into Cyril appeared. You're here, aren't you, Nekama Asterisk B.A.S.T.A.R.D. I'm not a Nekama. I'm usually on Eternal Horizon Online while conscious my own gender, T/N. I think he's saying he acts according to his and I don't do any particular princess play. Even so, why did men and women call me Hyuki-chan or Hime-sama regardless of that? Even during the offline meetups. Incomprehensible. Using a female character even when you're a guy, of course everyone would think you were a Nekama. That's an irrational line of argument. As far as I know, most of the guys had female character accounts, even if the girls' utilization rate of male characters are fairly high. If you were to say so, then isn't everyone Nekama and Nenabi Asterisk? Well, anything is fine. Since arguing with an idiot is useless, I brought up the real issue at hand. Could you tell me your goal and background? I couldn't recall the name in Animaru-san's case. Kinjo no Fun-san, T/L, Goldfishes P.O.O.P. No, this isn't a provocation. Frankly, even now I was unable to remember the name. The way he said Aniki, I could recall the matter of Animaru-san being the guild submaster, have an impression of someone who is always attached behind Animaru-san, but no recollection of ever having a conversation directly with him. It's Otomaru. Unlike you, who was given peerage due to pity, I used real effort like my Aniki to achieve my court ranking. In short, a different case, unlike you. Together with a shout, the youth brandishes the Mikazuki scimitar widely with his right hand, aiming at the ground directly beneath him, and swung it down. Katana skill lightning sword, deeply plunging the scimitar body onto the ground. Crackle of thunders roared, from their blue-whitish lightning surged up in every direction. The lightning attack heading towards me, without the need to avoid, in an instant I was guarded with a large S.H.I+Ld, Pavis Asterisk, by Kokuyu, who had appeared from the shadows. At the same time, concealed in the shadows of the rock here and there, is the Seraph, Mikato, and under her direct supervision, the elite bodyguards troop members Prink.I.P.Ality, 4 of them with their wings aflutter, descended and stood behind me. And then, slowly, from the skies, with tentacles growing from various places on his body, with a large eye on the heart, AS.H.I plus New York multifaceted crystal body, is the commander of the 13 demon generals, a Karaga of Yog-Sothoth, seemingly hold on there. I've kept you waiting, princess. A huge orc king returns to his place in battle. T/N, Dare Disuka, was there such a Kyara, /Geho? Oh, Hime-sama. Once again, to stand on the same battlefield as you, said the first demonic subordinate, Pat, Iki, the sword dog. This is indeed an honor, Hime, said the second pet, Suji the greenman. I don't remember calling for them, but somehow they are in high spirits as they jumped down from several dozen meters away. Bringing throngs of your pets, as I thought you nekama-B.A.S.T.A.R.D is scared of fighting on your own. But that's you, isn't it? That lighting attack reminded me. Thunder-type cursed sword dual-wield swordsman Asterisk, unbreakable thunder child. Thanks to Animaru-san's leveling, he received a nickname Kinjo no Fun / Goldfishes P.O.O.P as recognition of being a top ranker, right? Don't mess around, you nekama-B.A.S.T.A.R.D. My court rank is achieved through real strength. Enraged Otomaru, even though I've heard the name, is that it? Other than an impression I can't recall, because it was unusual for me, it was causing unease in the mind. I tilted my head and thought hard. The reason why he's angry, in my mind, I recognize part of the reason. If I were to point out that as the reason, I would conduct myself as to deny that feeling, is what I thought I'd do, but is it normal to be so frank about such feelings to such an extent? Nah, let's try to understand it right after we do it. Even so, if it's only me receiving court ranking earlier, even though I think that this much of cursing and swearing is an everyday occurrence, but is it normal to continue being that angry? If I was wrong, then I won't deny it. Like earlier when I was called Nekama. However, together with the pas.sing of time, these feelings of anger, normally would have worn off a little is what I thought. I felt some sort of unease. It was like Animaru-san. As if this was said, this sort of reply is natural, it feels like that sort of acting. Well, I'll get the details by questioning you after you're caught. If you're obedient, then you won't go through a painful experience. Do you still intend to resist pointlessly? With one step ahead, Kokuya came out, Mikoto below, the bodyguards arranging themselves to surround and protect me. Behind me the rest have returned to their place in battle, posing as if they're ready to leap at the opponent. Either way, the single player is surrounded by those with the strength of boss-level monsters. Normally you'd consider this a desperate situation, but Otomaru faced downward, and his shoulders started shaking, from laughing really hard. So naive. With this, you intend to put me here snugly in a trap. When I had struck with the lightning sword earlier, it seems like was completely not noticed. At that moment, the ground started to shake as if there's an earthquake. This is, underneath the ground. Princess, from the northeast. Please be careful. The same time as Akaraga's word of caution, in the distant desert, as if exploding, possibly hundreds of sand clouds blew upwards like the explosion of volcanoes, and from there, something gigantic came out. That is, Animaru-san's guild home, moving fortress Mukid. Even though it is said to be a small size, a section is longer than 100 meters, made of blocks which are furnished with legs that could make all sorts of movements. The overall length is several kilometers. This characteristic, as one would expect it, is so stunning that one could not say a word. Even though I've always thought it was a bit too gigantic, but when it's materialized you can see that it really is absurdly big. It's as you said. Right now it is under my control. And now taking something out of the inventory, there was a violet crystal in Otomaru's hands. With this, it shall be decided. Dual S.P.A.C.E. open asterisk. With this keyword, the crystal in his hands was smashed up, and at the same time, you could feel the atmosphere in the surrounding change. This is. Ha 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 ha, for cowards who don't duel others, you wouldn't know about, this isn't that so? This is another dimension. Before the outcome of the duel is decided N.O. body can interfere with this fight. That means no reinforcements will be able to come here. However, for me, with a snap of his fingers, the moving fortress Mukid's side opened, and from there, groups of pets spilled out / overflowed, some of them were even boss level ones. There are around 1,000 pets. What will you do? If you don't resist, I may even hold back on killing you. It seems he's copying my words from earlier, his words mixed with scorn. FN, whichever way it's fine, on your side it seems like you haven't given them names. Ah. Otomaru's expression seems to say, what kind of idiocy are you talking about? Of course I didn't, even if I were to give them names it's not like their ability is going to improve. With a statement that shows that he doesn't view his pets anything else but his tools, if I were to meet up with my other friends, with a relaxed, yar asterisk, expression we'd lift 2 of our palms, then by chance, simultaneously shrug our shoulders. This is how we could come to a mutual understanding. Then, for now, that Boku-chan asterisk, referring to Hyuki, will be my opponent. Then, for now, we will go and subjugate those servants. Mikoto bowed her head and led the rest of the pets towards Mukid. One moving fortress and 1,000 monsters versus the 9 of them. Normally when you consider it seems like there's an impossible difference in war potential/strength, but it seems like they don't have enthusiasm. Or should I say, before a battle, there's a spring in their steps. What are you thinking of, your pets, are they idiots? Well, although there's no mistake in saying they're idiots, despite a bitter smile, I brought out my serious equipment starting from my beloved sword, the Sinners of Rose, Gilles de Rice asterisk. With that said, I pointed the Sinners of Rose, Gilles de Rice asterisk, towards Otomaro. Now, shall we begin? Original author's note. Speaking of which, this time Mikoto's subordinate elite troops Prink.I.P.Ultis, 1 vs 2 Winged Angel top ranking, S4 names of all the girls are Tsubeki, Inoki, Hisaki and Iragi, these 4 sisters. Also, the forgetting others, benefiting self, T.I.Tle used to be forgetting self, benefiting others, which means to forget about oneself, and work tirelessly for others, the opposite of what it means now. I guess it was in consideration of someone's suggestion star. Nato's picky footnote and random tidbits from this chapter asterisk, engineers but could be translated as technicians as well. Asterisk 3 Chibi Chibi Hyuki-chan asterisk Nekama is short for Net Okama, which is a person who portrays oneself as their opposite gender online. Asterisk Nenabi is the opposite for Nekama. Girls who use female characters to play the net game/online game. DAM.N, as always, UB.A.S.T.A.R.D asterisk keep messing around. The word fake Cyril use here is Yara, which is a rude way to call a young man, so it can be interpreted as calling someone ab.a.s.t.a.r.d, since the tone is rude. Asterisk Pavis is some sort of large s.h.i plus eld of European origin. It can protect the entire body with the large size and convex design. See Wikipedia for more information. Asterisk Fueta can also mean following suit without reflection. At least that's what my translation widget thing says. Asterisk its dual s.p.a.ce open. Literally. In j.a. paints. In katakana, asterisk Gilles de Rice is the name of A.N.O.Bli who fought alongside Joan of Arc against the English around year 1427 to 1435. In later years he was brought to light as a serial killer of children. It seems like he's a S.E. Sewell deviant, and also a heavy spender who can't seem to pay back his creditors. Either way, this guy is not someone with our sort of morals and would have been brought to a swift and short end if he lived in this era. Asterisk Yair could be translated as good grief, but the expression doesn't seem right so I left it as Yair.